Rhett, good morning, I guess. What time is it there? Good evening?
Evening.
It's very late, huh? Where are you in Amsterdam now? Oh, you're muted. Muted.
I think you said Belgium.
Sorry, I'm in Portugal.
Oh, you're in Portugal, right? That's right. Okay, cool.
I'm on UTC.
UTC, right? Okay,
Yeah.
good. So it's like 11 p.m. or something.
Yeah.
We have a Ben.
Sorry.
Clock time, Ben. Clock time Ben is muted, but Clock time Ben is also in Southern California, right? Where are you calling in from?
Block time Ben is frozen.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, good job being early, everybody. Yeah, this is very nice, you know. Early is on time. Unless you're frozen, Ben. Doesn't count. He really is just completely frozen now. That's great.
I suspect he'll drop off and come back. Yeah, we'll let Aaron in.
Who? Cox? Oh, wow. Amazing.
Hello.
That's awesome.
Yo.
Welcome.
Thanks. Found a good spot that wasn't filled on my calendar already, so I was like, I gotta join in and see what the hell's going on.
See what the hell's going on, but don't worry, we have an agenda. So we're pretty organized thanks to Robert.
Awesome.
Don't tell anybody. Don't tell anybody. Yeah. Oh, someone's gone? Oh, it's Ben. Aaron, where are you calling in from? I like to know where we just like to review where everyone's coming from.
I'm in Michigan currently.
Oh, Michigan, nice.
Yeah, it's cold.
Any Chinese balloons there?
Not this week.
Not near. Are you near Lake Huron?
Maybe 100 miles away.
Okay, yeah. So
That's a ways.
it would have to be a pretty big balloon for you.
Yeah. Oh, it was funny. One of our other team members lives nearby, and the other day he was outside, and I think it was the day that it broke, that it was over Lake Huron, and he saw a string of lights moving through the sky and took a video of it and sent it to me, and he was like, what the hell's going on out here? And then we looked it up, and apparently it might have been the Starlink satellite launch from earlier that morning.
Yeah.
It was like a train of satellites that
Yeah,
apparently that's a common thing, but it's super weird looking.
that is super weird, man. That's super cool, though.
Yeah.
Very interesting. I didn't know they launched them.
Totally screws astronomers, though.
Yeah, it does. Super.
Yeah.
Hey Ben, can you hear me?
Yeah, we got
What
you.
all they're doing is looking for asteroids. You know.
Yeah. Asteroid or Starlink, you guess. So Doug, you're calling in from Seattle.
Ish.
Seattle-ish.
Seattle.
Somewhere up there.
The mountains, the woods, the trees.
Nice.
Cabin in the woods.
I guess we'll give a couple people. How many other people are coming? I don't even know.
There's
You give people-
23 on the invite now. It's gotten to be a big group. Yeah.
Wayne. All right. We got all the dates.
Hey, Wayne.
Nice to meet you, Wayne.
Yep.
Wayne, I think you're muted. You're muted.
Okay, how about now?
Hey, we
Oh,
got
yeah.
you.
All right, good to meet you guys.
Yeah, good to meet you too.
Okay.
Are you
So-
are you guys brothers or just
Yes.
share a last name coincidentally or
Yeah, we just happen to have the same name.
weird, right?
Nah, Ben's my son.
That's great. Great to have you guys here.
Yeah, he's a little older than I am.
Hey. We don't-
On the internet, no one knows you're a dog.
Exactly. So you guys are both calling in from SoCal, right? Wayne, are you in Southern California or no?
No, I'm in Missouri. That's an actual background behind me. It's not live, but that's one of our places here.
Oh, beautiful. Nice.
So
Very
we got
nice.
12 confirms for today. So I think we can go ahead and get started. We got 11 on the call.
Okay, cool.
Could I say something before we start? Could we record this meeting so that I could kind of use it later for content for the socials for Libre?
Yes.
And then
Yes, it's being
another
recorded right now.
Thank you. And then another thing that I wanted to ask was so I'm thinking basically the idea of every Wednesday having an announcement related to the BPs. I was thinking on taking a snapshot of the current BP selection that we have right now, and then every week have a call it like the BP of the week or something like that, where we can get some information about that BP and we can talk to them and talk about them and kind of give an explanation as to what are they doing for Libre and the future of Libre and things like that. I wanted to ask everybody if this sounds like a cool idea to do, or if not, not do it.
That sounds great to me.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
We should, I think, be in the habit of just recording everything, and have the exception be anything that we don't want to record, right? I'd really encourage us to do that. And I don't think there's anything at this time that I can think of that wouldn't be public. So,
So I think we already are recording. Robert's handling recording right now, so
And I got to
we're
get
recording.
on.
Perfect.
Yep.
So the last meeting was recorded, but now this was going to be recorded even better. Okay, cool. We have Chris Barnes joining from Mexico. Right,
Hey.
Chris, are you in Mexico?
Sí, señor. ¿Cómo está? ¿Está bien?
Okay, Chris,
Good.
I love
I speak some French and some Spanish now.
I loved your video about how you made a video and included your seed phrase, and then someone took your tokens. That was great. I think that should be its own separate video, by the way. I'll call you later and talk to you about it. But let's get into the agenda here. Robert, do you want to lead the? You want to go through it? Share your screen so that we.
No problemo. Let me.
I thought the first thing that everyone's going to want to hear about is what the hell happened with the multi-sig that didn't work.
Why don't you start on that while I get the screen share going?
So basically, we had one to-do item that wasn't done from the mainnet launch. Pretty funny. I just checked the Miro board that we had for tracking that, and it was update the multi-sig contract. Apparently, the version of the system contracts that we used, 1.9.2, had an outdated EOSIO MSIG contract that requires deferred transactions. And the new one just sends the transactions individually if there's more than one transaction in a multi-sig. So the reason for the failure is actually still unknown, but we suspect it's something to do with RAM and resources. So we're working on getting the contract updated on testnet to do some testing. And it's funny because all the repos kind of have the wrong old version in their releases, including the ENF one. But the Antelope main, which has no releases, has the correct code. And that's the one we're going to use to merge in and deploy. So we should have an update on that sometime tomorrow, I would guess. We're kind of working on that now in the background. So that's
I think that I think on the Antelope Coalition, we decided that it would be best to release all the Antelope software at the Antelope on the Antelope repos, as opposed to anything else. So that's not a feature. That's not a bug. That's a feature.
I think that is good, but the bug is that there's no releases, so there's no tagging of a release in the GitHub for the contracts, which is what
Interesting. I'll check that. I'm on that GitHub. So I'll look at that.
Think about it later. I can say more about it, but I don't want to spend a ton of time on this. I think we're going to try to do in general is spend 10 minutes on each color.
And that's going to go quick.
Aaron and I are both on that, so we can ask about that in the next meeting.
Right. Yep. Yeah, I can provide some details. I also have a suggestion on that front, which I can tell you is just let's keep all the versions of everything the same. Like contracts version, CDT version, everything should be like the same version numbers that work together.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else on
uh,
the multisig piece?
Any other questions? Yeah.
So we're testing the new multisig contract on testnet, and then we're gonna roll it out to mainnet. Does that require a BP vote?
Yes.
Okay. So we'll be
It's still under the 5 signers, right? Once we complete this, then our plan is to be able to change that to.
We're talking about two different things. The
Okay.
ESIO MSIG is a full ESIO prods multi-sig. There's just a few contracts that are ending in .libre that are under the 3 out of 5 board. And so
Right. Okay.
and I think since we're done with some of these little updates, we can absolutely change that over. Yeah, it would be good.
Cool.
Looking forward to it.
All right. So moving on to governance documents, Doug did a fantastic job digging through all of the drafts so far and sort of taking them over the line. Doug, do you want to talk about these real quick?
Yeah, sure. So some time ago, we, Robert, Adam, and myself had a meeting where we went through them quite a bit. There were a few things left to do that it was just sort of but it's just sort of been sitting there. What we did is we took the Telos governance documents and liberally removed anything that wasn't that didn't apply to Libre, and updated those. There were some things that we needed to look at, and some things I needed to translate the how the token distribution actually occurred and describe that, things like that. Some really boring stuff that's now done. So we actually have where last time we had this meeting, we had some holes in those documents. I've now gone through those, put everything in, and we have documents that we could, if we want to, enact. I'm certain that there are people who are going to have questions about, what this means, why make that decision, and then some things I put in decisions that we hadn't fully talked about, and so we need to discuss, things along the lines of, how many votes does it take to do this, or what period of time, is an appropriate penalty for doing such and such. But we now have those documents ready. I shared that a couple days ago, so hopefully people have had a chance to read through some of them. And I'm here to answer any questions that anybody may have.
And the link is there on the mirror board if anybody needs it.
Yeah, there's 3 documents. One is the Libre blockchain operating agreement, LBOA, which is synonymous, or which is a fork of the TBNOA, the Telos Blockchain Network Operating Agreement. Very cut down because there's a lot of things that I think our general understanding here is that Libre is not really meant to be community governed. It's meant to be BP governed, and it's community governed in that the community elects the BPs.
Right. I agree with that. I also think that the BP, somewhere in there, we might want to include that these proposals, the block producers should adhere to the decisions of the DAO.
Well, the DAO, so the DAO is about funding, right? So the DAO is largely just about distribution of community funds. There's no provision made for it to be like a Telos amend type system where we put forward ways to amend this. But in part, I think that's because this is just a different blockchain, right? This is just a different group of owners, and their interest level, I think, is going to be more along the line of let's get the right block producers running this, and let's trust them in what needs to be done. And as long as there's transparency and whatnot going on there, then then we're fine. I truly believe that what we're trying to achieve is to have a clear set of rules. We don't need the same process as we do on Telos to be able to have anyone amend those. I think what we need is them to be very clear so that if issues come up, we know exactly what we're supposed to do. If somebody does something they're not supposed to do, they knew it was a rule. We know exactly what's supposed to happen to them. We know how many blocks you can miss before you're automatically kicked, things like that. And that clarity means that we can all, that we don't have to spend a lot of time on governance. I don't think that my sense of what Libre is that it's meant to be a streamlined payment platform. It's not meant for governance. There is a payment system. I would even be interested in doing something like we did in the Telos Economic Development Plan, where we created ongoing streams of funds to core developers and marketing and whatnot. Not at this time, but in the future. But I just think that I think that the block producers are entrusted to make any changes. I think most of the people who care about the system right now are block producers.
Into that, I was thinking is that like, if there's some kind of proposal to change like token supply or funding in some way, that would be great to go through the DAO and give token holders a chance to be polled on it. What do you think about that?
I think that polling and voting are different things. I think that polling can be done anywhere. Voting really only matters if it's done in the way that we built it.
And token weighted poll even is actually quite valuable.
Well, I would say this on the DAO. The original idea of this was really intended to kind of mimic more what Compound is doing for the DAO, where the DAO actually could have a piece of executable code, right, that the DAO could embed, and if the proposal passed, the code passed, right? Now we sort of simplified it and sort of said, hey, we'll just have it pay some actually it was BTC initially, right? We'll have it pay some BTC,
right?
But I definitely like the idea of code changes voted on by the DAO, as well as sort of a simplified, pay some money out of the fund for XYZ. But I think we shouldn't close the door to more functionality that's voted by the DAO, because Compound has proved very well that this stuff works. It's a good way of doing things.
Well, I wouldn't pose what I was saying as closing the door, but I have actually designed and built a system that updates the documents, in Telos Amend, and so I know what goes into that. And we decided not to make it do automatic code updates for a number of reasons. One of them is, what we just saw here with the MSIG that failed, right? I think that we are away from having the system be so secure and bulletproof that we would trust our update system to it. I would like to see I think that at this point in the technology, having the block producers as a execution layer is probably a wise thing to do. And I think that having voted code updates is, to me, a risk, even if it's doing well. Now, long term, I like that, but in the present, I think there's more risks than benefits.
I think we're on the same page. I think the only thing that Ben's saying is there may be things that go beyond dispersing DAO funds that the DAO wants to do, and we can talk about some of those later. Like in particular, we're talking about exchanges and things like that. And, it may be the case that, XYZ exchange comes in and says, I'll list you guys, but it's, 200 grand. Okay. And, maybe it is, okay, great. We're going to issue that exchange 200 grand worth of tokens, and maybe they're going to be locked tokens or something, but this is going to be, we want somewhere that the DAO, that thing is voted on by the token holders, right?
Well, that
don't
that
only-
would be in the scenario you're talking about. That would be an expenditure, a capital expenditure, and that's exactly how the DAO is set up at present, right? If there was most things like that are going to incorporate an element of fund expenditure, right? And so the expenditure and the decision are one and the same. You could also, if there's something else that we feel is important to get an actual token weighted poll on, we could do just a $0 or zero Libre reward poll, right?
Zero, do 0.0001. It has to be some positive amount.
Or you might want it to be the 2,000 Libre that are as a reimbursement of the deposit. Right now, what we have, one of the decisions that I had to make was to say because it's much simpler, is if you make a deposit on a DAO proposal, you don't get it back under any circumstances. But you can ask for that. Now, for example, in the Telos Aside system, if you hit a certain threshold, you get it back. That's just extra programming. So I don't think that we need that. I think you just, it's just a protection against, Sybil attacks and things like that. So yeah, you might make it a 2,000 Libre thing so that whoever made the proposal gets it back if it passes.
Yeah, exactly. Great idea.
Yep.
Great idea, Doug. Thank you. And thank you for your work on the governance documents. Looks great.
Thank you. It's my pleasure. I've done this before. Like, I wrote those to start with, and Adam gave me a lot of help. So the learning curve for anyone else is going to be incredibly steep versus what it is for me.
I just would love to hear what the steps are for that. Are those going to get implemented into the reg prod? So then we'll all sign by doing a reg prod, sign with our key, or?
I think what we would do, so on Telos, we built the Telos Amend system where that is actually stored on chain, and it can be updated. It's actually really cool. But that's something I don't think we need. I think we could do something as simple as do an MSIG that hashes, or just actually prints it's all text, each of these on chain, and then we sign it, right? And we reference the chain, the block where it is, and it's done.
What about new producers coming in then? New validators?
Well, I mean, the way the governance works is the governance is the governance. Once set, that is the governance. You are coming in, you are agreeing to the current governance, unless, and then it's changed. And the people who can change it is a 2/3 + 1 MSIG of whoever's currently the voted in BPs. I mean, that's how everything works in DPoS. Really.
Great. I'd like to suggest that we make an action item of adding this to the Git book.
A description
in the Git book. Yeah, like a description of this, read the rules, where they are, what you're agreeing to when you reg prod.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is there a Ricardian contract with the reg prod?
Yes.
So maybe we can throw in that Ricardian contract reference to the block that has this, so they actually are in fact signing it when they do reg prod.
Could be. I mean, that's self reference, right? We would have to. So, by changing it, we would change the hash. But we could do that.
We can't figure out all this right now. It's okay. I don't want to take up all of our time talking about the governance. So
yeah,
the Git book is a great place.
The Git book is a great. We added on the Git book. Just quick side note, in case you guys didn't see, we added in the Git book how to verify code changes, and each proposal is listed on the Git book now. So every time there's a multi-sig, anyone can do merge requests to Git book, right? And to add in when you have a proposal that's going through a multi-sig, all the details of what it is. following the format that I've been using, I think would be amazing for everyone to be able to verify those code
Yeah, I
changes.
think
So anyway,
I think that's great. I had planned to include it in the governance section of the section of the GitLab as well. It seemed like an appropriate place.
Right.
But we can do that in multiple places, and I think it's no problem, and it won't be hard to track that. And I can take that on, writing up that document and doing a PR for that. The step I would like to see us do is to move to where I'm assuming people not enough people have fully read it, fully digested it. I expect there are going to be questions. What I'd like to happen is, now that we've gotten this to a point where we could actually move forward at any time, and the only thing really stopping us is enough people reading, understanding, and being able to, make, the discussion and debate around what changes should be made. Once that happens, we can do this. And I think it would be good for us to have it, because then it starts answering questions like, hey, if you're not producing blocks, what do we do about it? So, and other things that have come up and that will naturally come up. And, I'm a believer that a good clear set of rules that everybody is exposed to is a huge benefit for us and the project and everybody involved. So I'd like to see us move to that. I know that's not something we're going to do today, but I don't know that we necessarily need to wait a month for that either. I think that I think that's something we could reasonably do within a week. Have everybody read it, send me offline questions, have offline discussions, and then issue an MSIG. It's really just a question of what our expectations are at this point.
Let's do that. Let's schedule a deadline of everyone reading it by next Thursday, and then we'll propose the multi-sig next Thursday if there's no issues.
I think it's reasonable. There may be discussion, like we may get there. Part of it could be that there's fierce debates on something. So if we're at least in the fierce debate section, I don't have a problem. We don't vote if we're not ready to vote on it. It'd be great if we were, and I don't think that'll happen. But I think we need to at least be having an active and productive discussion about it by that point. And if that's good, if you guys all like my answers and to the questions that you have, and we can power through this, so much the better. But I just think we need to do the work of actually reading through it. And I'm here to answer questions, but I don't feel like it makes sense for me to propose the questions and then answer them. I think they should be organic.
Good action item. Great.
All right. So next Thursday, read feedback, and if we need to follow up with another meeting, we will. Cool. Code updates. Ben?
Code updates. Yeah, I mean, the PR or merge request for that 30 active producers is alive. The link is actually down below. I don't know. We might want to move that up to where it belongs there. But code ready for testing on testnet. That's ready. I think we were just pending a DAO vote on that, but we don't really. I mean, do we have to vote on the DAO for that? Maybe not. You know. So that's something we can actually merge in and then start testing. I think everyone's in favor of that, but we'll actually need a multi-sig to propose on mainnet, so then we'll find out if someone's not. But essentially, that's just having 30 active BPs instead of 21.
So there is one. I do have a question about that, which is the role of the testnet. I think that in the future, right now it may not matter. In the future, I think the role of the testnet should be for others to test things on, not for us to test software on. In which case, so meaning that there should be a stage net, right? There would be a staging net that would be ad hoc, and then if things did, for test deployments and things like that, and if things went well on the staging net, then it would be promoted to deploying on the test net. And of course we would do a look-see on the test net, but the main function of the test net at that point is just to
we do have staging networks that we all run locally for development. So we technically do have that. I have one that I'm happy to share with anyone who wants it that will spring up a Libre network with all of our contracts and everything.
I think a
Another
private one that that even if it's on your node, that you're running it like on a local host or something that has that we can check, that we can come in and
We have that.
Okay, I think that was good exposed to the more technical BPs.
Rio, Quantum, and Edenia all have that working locally.
Okay,
And we
that's
do-
fine. I wanted to make sure, I didn't know the status of that, and I wanted to see what it was. So that sounds like that. So then in that case,
there's also just a lot of testing that's written into the contracts. So all the contracts have test folders with testing of all the functionality.
unit tests.
Yep, unit testing is all written out for all of our contracts. So
Excellent. So then in that case, I think that the function of the test net is to serve as it's not for testing. It's a service we provide for our developers to use for their own testing. And the only real test function that we should be doing, I think, or the only function it has in this process for us, is we should be putting forward an MSIG or just a non-MSIG, just a action to update when we push the code to update that. The MSIG that we do, the payload of the MSIG that we do to update mainnet should be identical to the one that we did with testnet. And that's a protection for those who aren't going to compile. I mean, I think the reality is a minority of the BPs are going to actually go to the trouble of recompiling that, even though we should all be doing so. I don't think, in practice, I don't think that happens. So,
and I can also very easily write a script that anyone could run locally if they have Docker. It's pretty close to that already, but within a few days, I could have a script that anyone can run locally and be able to check all kinds of interesting things about the code, including seeing a diff printout of the differences in the code between the original and the.
I actually think that would be fantastic. And I mean, I don't want to assign, your time, but I think that would be very beneficial for the project. I think that's something we could talk about, and we should document our process. We should ISO whatever number that is now, how we are doing things. That's better, right? So I'd appreciate that if it make me feel more comfortable in that, and I think it would increase the number of BPs who actually.
If you take a look at the instructions that I wrote out, they're already almost in a script form, so it's really almost a copy paste for me to do.
Okay, I saw that. It was pretty thorough. I saw it was pretty thorough, but it was not, push button, make code.
Yeah, I can absolutely make a push button, enter commit, and then it would do everything else for you. So
great. Yeah. I think that will build a lot of confidence as people understand that.
I agree. Another thing we want to do is have on the block explorer that we're building to have when code, what hash of the code matches what part of a repo, and also has the code been audited? Does an account have a smart contract or not? Or have a special section, which I can show you guys later, some of our designs for that. Thinking about it.
Since you mentioned that, what are you using as the basis for building a block explorer?
Nothing. We already have done a lot of one of the validators that's not registered yet is actually working on it, Libre blocks. So he's actually one of our community guys, but he's
you know that we have I assume that we have a full open source block explorer called Open Block Explorer on Telos.
I don't know. I'll make sure that he knows about it, but he's already pretty far along in the process of building.
Okay, well, I mean, this is what we're running, and it's designed intentionally to make it easy to add to add. It's designed to be like actually you could run multiple chains on one thing.
You can send me a link of it. That would be great to see.
Will do.
I'm getting a little worried about time, so I just want to talk about the next two. I mean, the geographic scheduling, nothing's been started on that yet. And the code updates of voting from one account to one account to 4 is, I think, still something that we need to have some debate on, in my opinion. So that's kind of where we're at with the code updates. Right now, our priority in code is obviously getting the multi-sig working. So that's priority number 1.
Just a question on the 30 explorers, or sorry, not block explorers, 30 block producers. I see there's only 28 who are currently registered. So is the idea that there's a few more waiting in the wings and it will be a full 30 by the time that's going into effect?
There are lots of people reaching out every week about getting registered and stuff. And one of the questions that we have about that, which I'll save for later, I'll save it for later for us to talk about if we have time, but what we'll need to figure out what are the requirements to be even a validator. It's another thing. DAO updates, quick update on that is that thanks, Doug. DAO updates, where the voting weight, the voting power is the multi-sig that we're talking about getting passed. So that will update the code to have that working it adds a power table to stake.libre and adds 3 actions to stake.libre. So that we can calculate this voting power. It needs to be manually recalculated on a cron. So I'm already running a bunch of crons. Anyone can run them, they're permissionless to run things like update VP in this case. So the DAO portion is already done. I think there's one more code update I need to push on the DAO, which has not been handed over to a multi-sig yet. I will mention there's no multi-sig on the DAO. The staking contract, that's the multi-sig we were just talking about. And the system contract, we're at the stage where we can test that on test. Now we already tested on the local stage net that we have. And so then the DAO should be functional. So the outcome of this process of updating the system contract, the DAO contract, and staking contract is that now any staked Libre will be used to vote for proposal in the DAO and for validators. And the way that the voting will work is that the amount of Libre coins that are staked are weighted based on how much time is remaining in the stake. If you have a year remaining in your particular stake, then that amount of tokens has a weight of 2. If you only have 10 days left, it has a weight of 1. So it'll just go down a little bit every day. So that way, the more term length remaining in your stake will determine your power to vote.
So
it's all part of the design.
So Ben, if you have longer than 365 days stake, it will always be 365 until you get below that.
There's a max of 365 in the calculation. So
okay.
What if people wanted to like restake their tokens for the longer period to increase their vote power? Is that available?
They would have to emergency unstake and restake them, which means they would lose.
Yeah, they can't really.
Yeah.
And then basically
repower up. Yeah.
They can buy more tokens, but that's it.
Although you could stake them for 2 years and then you wouldn't have to worry about them falling under for.
Yeah, I mean you can only do that on the command line, of course. Stake more than a year.
Yeah, it's not on the dashboard.
I was gonna suggest actually that we add that to that you guys add that to the thing as a advanced option. But
yeah, we're just I mean I think in general, I was talking to this guy this morning in New York, and he was like, your simple pitch for anyone you're talking about what you're doing should be DeFi for retail. So I think to keep it retail friendly, we try to keep everything super simple. That's our general concept. But the dashboard, we are considering an update to the dashboard to really make this voting weight very clear, how it works and where it comes from.
And like I think that I just like to interject. I think one of the really the things that we've heard people over the last month or so ask us is sort of really explain to me again what this Libre token is, how are they useful, et cetera, right? So I think one of the ways I think about this is like if you invest in a company, the first thing you think about is what percentage of that company I own, right?
Right.
And I think I think in the same thing here, I think if this DAO, if I can sort of say I have 1% of all, or this account, I may have two accounts, right? But this account has 1% of all the staking power, the vote power. Then Libre starts becoming sort of more valuable in my mind, right? If it's just some number like I've got 226,211 things, I have no idea what it is.
Well,
So,
you can't even see your voting power now unless you go look at the tables.
right. So we have to show the voting power. That's the first conclusion. And I think we need to show it as a percentage of total voting. And furthermore, I think, and we'll talk about this a little later, but I think it's very important that we surface how much money is in the DAO. How much Libre is in the DAO. Maybe you can show some of that mock.
Yeah, I did a mock of this today, so if I can find it.
Yeah.
I'll put this in the Miro so everyone can see it.
But basically, we sort of have this idea of, here's the DAO. The DAO has, some number of Libre in it. It might have some number of Bitcoin in it. It may have some number of Tether in it. Right now there's no way for you to send anything else than Libre. There's no way really for that to happen. But I definitely think that in the future we can envision this DAO as holding a bunch of assets, right? It's just an account like any other account, right? Mm-hmm. Except it's voted on by the DAO holders, right? And if I start seeing this, I go, oh, there's 621,000 votes in this DAO. 621 million votes in this DAO. And
I have 6 million.
And I have 6 million votes.
That's 1% really.
Yeah.
My math is not good on this.
Right.
This is just a mock.
So. Right. So, so I think it's important to kind of surface that, oh, I have 1% of this blockchain, or I have, 0.01% of this blockchain as by voting.
Is that actually going to show voting power the same way we calculate voting power for BPs, or is it going to show that was actually something I came up with? I had a question I had in the voting, or does it show like just pure token weight?
No,
it'll be the voting power, right?
The voting power is the same thing as token weight, really.
Right. So it's basically.
I'm sorry. No, token weight becomes irrelevant now.
Right.
Voting power is the only governance.
Yeah. So this is
what number do you use to calculate the 10% then of the? This may be off.
That's based on a claim amount that comes from somewhere else. So,
okay.
From whatever
Does it calculation also include what you said about, like, if you're staking it for 365 days, then it's going to have double the vote power. So that's all be included in that calculation of how much vote power you currently have.
Yes, that calculation. So just to be really clear, guys, the calculation of voting power will happen in the stake.libre. You can view it on testnet now. There's a table on stake.libre called power. That power is updated with the update VP action on stake.libre. That calculates how much you have staked multiplies by the time you have it staked and comes up with a power representation. All of these other things, the DAO and the validator voting, will read that table. That'll be the single source of truth for voting power. This dashboard will also read that. So it'll be the same number across the board for your power to vote.
And then, we're going to also showcase, just like Compound, the top accounts by voting power, right?
Totally.
So basically, I really want the one KPI that people come like, I'd like to get more voting power. How do I do it? Oh, I have to get Libre and I have to stake longer, right? And if we can kind of get that people going with that idea that, oh, this is powerful. That, this is like owning this new blockchain that has money in it that can produce. And if this thing has fees on, like, it actually manages Bitcoin, maybe there's fees on peg in, peg out, maybe there's trading fees, right? So all of that goes here, right? And so, and maybe they did, maybe they declare a dividend, right, to all Libre holders, so we can sort of see a lot of where it's going, but I just like to have this thing be like, this is the company this is what your Libre is. You own a percentage of this company. So
one question, guys. The tokens on the liquidity pool for accounts that are staking to the liquidity pool to provide liquidity for Libre, Bitcoin, AMM.
That
those will be counted as voting power? No.
Nope, totally separate. Yeah. Yeah, those are not, it's not really a stake because there's no way
There's
to
no lockdown.
because there's no time. It's completely liquid.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, just to separate those because people could understand that they are staked into the liquidity pool and they are not.
Yeah, that's right. That's correct.
Just because it says if you go to the farming area, it says update stake. I think somewhere it says update stake.
We could change it to something else. We could change the
Yeah. So just to avoid the confusion.
Good idea.
That's a
Change the word.
yeah.
Yeah.
Is the moment of consequence for the staking weight the closing of the DAO vote? Like when does that close? Because and maybe we should talk about this later. It's kind of technical, but I had to go through a lot of understanding and figuring out and gaming of how that worked and how people don't double vote things and how you in designing to decide. But the thing is, you want to make sure that it's not gameable, right? Either by taking a snapshot at a very specific time, things like that. So it's worth talking about. Maybe not here.
Maybe not here, but I can tell you we've done a lot of testing on it. It's not gameable, and the actual actions of counting the votes. There's a check vote and there's a count vote, and I can provide more detail in a document or something that would be very clear for everyone to see. But those actions currently can only be run by DAO.Libre itself. So if we put that into a multi-sig, then it would have to be signed by all the block producers or 15/21 of the validators whenever a proposal needs to have its votes counted, for example. So
yeah, I'm not recommending that. I just want to understand it. If you and I can talk about it offline.
Yeah.
Like I said, the same way you would say, oh, I've spent 5 months figuring this out. I probably have as well, and we'll very likely to come to the same conclusions. I just want to understand, and if there's anything that that's missing, I'd like to contribute.
We start using it. So if we get through the next few days of getting these contract updates done, we'll be able to use it, and then everyone's going to see how it works. It's going to make a lot of sense. Okay, I think that's good enough for DAO talk for now. Robert, what do you think?
Yeah, I think that's probably good. All right, let me move back over here. I have a little bit of internet issues, so I'm getting a little audio dropout. I apologize. Antelope IBC. So Wayne and Ben from Block Time reached out to have a quick conversation about whether we'd like to see the IBC here on Libre. I'm pretty supportive of that idea. So Wayne and Ben, do you want to jump in and have a quick conversation?
Sure, I'll start. One of the big things that I can see with IBC is more than just token transfers. We can have the IBC between testnet and mainnet to where we can confirm that the validators on mainnet have a BP on testnet that is producing blocks. And if you don't, create some kind of smart contract that would, update a table that, yes, I produced a block, and that can be hashed to mainnet. And then the mainnet, part of everything we're talking about, getting, moving BPs that are not performing correctly, moving them off mainnet if they don't meet the criteria that the DAO or whatever has set up for a BP. So that's just one use case that I think the IBC can bring, is it can link the testnet and the mainnet to be able to prove that you have a valid BP on testnet. Because I'm assuming that most people know the IBC is more than moving tokens between net. It's about validating transactions. Yes, this did happen on this network. So I'm sure I know Douglas knows, he's part of the coalition, and we work with UX a lot, and so we've got little access to the internals of the IBC. But I think that it could be beneficial for that. along with being able to get more eyes on Libre through, creating different liquidity pools if we wanted to, through the DeFi box for Nudex. A lot of options. If there's BPs here that are on UX that can provide staking. There's just so many options that IBC gives. If we wanted to move from USDT to USDC, or we want to become the premier Bitcoin management for all of Antelope, we already have the tools. We already have the mobile apps. We already have all these things. If we can get our name out there and do that, then we already have the tools. Once it comes there, we jump over to that. We have the option to use that, and we can become the go-to for Bitcoin on Antelope. So I think there's a lot of benefits. I don't see a lot of drawbacks for this, and we are running Antelope, so we probably should, participate in that community ecosystem, whatever word we want to use there. So I think there's a lot of benefits, and I think we should, seriously consider integrating that into what we have.
I mean, adding to that, if I may, we looked at bridging Fortis on IBC through the different chains, and one of the chains that we were actually looking at is Libre as well.
Yeah, Doug, you were trying to jump in.
Yes, let me share what I think how I think that goes with the what the coalitions discussed. So the code, absolutely, the code is available. It's open source, and we can deploy that ourselves, and there's nothing stopping us. And I think we should. I think that helps us. The use case that you talked about right there, that would be great. That would be a great use case. In terms, so using the code, absolutely, that's there. Joining in the group of the Antelope Coalition group is going to be more challenging. They're not interested in. So there's a high expense to being involved in the Antelope Coalition, even for change like UX and Telos, and so there's little direct advantage because everything's open source. And so one of the things that was expressed recently on a call, and Aaron can back me up if you want, or correct me where I'm wrong, is that the coalition feels that it's important to create some kind of differentiation for those coins and for those ecosystems that are contributing. And so there doesn't seem to be any appetite right now for adding anything except for EOS, Telos, UX, WAX, and possibly USDT. Although it seems like even USDT is up for debate. So I think that it's not realistic to think that we're going to get a warm welcome right away unless we can make a really good case for why we should do that. We can do that on a case-by-case basis with other chains. They can also add it, but I think it'll be very challenging to get them to see the value proposition for themselves in the chain. So that's my. I think we should just go in with our eyes open. Aaron, is that fit what you see as well?
And we're specifically talking about the chain's willingness, the BPs on the chain's willingness to link together. Is that what you're referring to?
The willingness of the Antelope Coalition chains to allow another economic token from another Antelope operating Antelope protocol chain that's not a member of the Antelope Coalition.
I guess I haven't heard that, but then again,
we had a specific conversation about that.
Is that I heard that someone told me like a week ago something like, "Oh, I talked to Eve." Who said that? I can't remember now. Was it Rhett? Someone said I talked to Eve about Libre, and he was like, "Yeah, do it."
I didn't talk with Eve about Libre, but I talked with Eve about Europe Chain, and he was very clear that, in his opinion, this first round of Antelope alliance was closed, and that future change could negotiate to be part of it, but not right now.
Maybe we should create our own misfit toy. Alliance.
I'm trademarking that.
Yeah, what we're just saying is
Just a
what I
bunch
was
of misfits,
trying to express.
you know. Yeah,
Hold
we've
on,
got the
what was that?
alliance. I like that.
I love what the ENF is doing. I think everything is such a big turnaround compared to the energy 2 years ago.
Yeah.
So I appreciate it, what they are doing. I don't think joining is a priority for your chain or a priority for Libre. Doing IBC can be very interesting.
Yeah,
I don't think we have the money to do it. I think the minimum buy-in is going to be way more than we could expect. We could afford.
So then, if a chain doesn't belong to the coalition, they can't use the IBC contracts.
Oh,
No,
yeah.
No, I
absolutely
don't think that's true.
use the IBC contract. You can use the contract. Absolutely, it's open source. What you can't do is get in on the special set of economic tokens that are trading back and forth on all 4 chains.
Yeah, and we wouldn't be included in the supra token discussion and whatnot. But I think it's I agree. I don't think it's probably a priority right now, and by the looks of it, it's closed anyway. But it probably makes sense to just stay in touch, and they might have different tiers of blockchains. Like there might be the 4 chains that are the core, whatever ENF coalition
Look,
group.
a year from now, they might be trying to join the Misfit Toys Coalition, so we'll just dismiss this for now.
Yeah. I would not just to my understanding is it's not officially closed. Nothing's officially closed. I think I'm not going to put words in Eve's mouth, but I think that in practical terms, we don't see anybody who's likely to be able to join right now, given the minimum costs that we all bear and whatnot. So that's my understanding.
Aaron?
And I think you're right, and I think it's not because people aren't welcome. It's because there's no process that exists for it, and the priority of creating the process is not as high as fixing some of the problems that are going on. So, I mean, I think there is a general willingness to expand that coalition of 4 chains. It's just how. Nobody has an answer on to how, and then beyond that is how much. Like, how much do they contribute? It's already kind of a weird situation with UX being not having a price, kind of, in so many words. And it's like that needs to be figured out. Then it's how do we bring new people in, and then how do we grow this? So it's not like an exclusive thing necessarily. It's just
I did actually mention Libre specifically. I raised that in a thing about 6 weeks ago about any interest in reaching out. And there was nothing against Libre, just like there's nothing against any of the other antelope chains that aren't running it. It's just we spent a lot of time. I think part of it is we spent a lot of time trying to bring chains together, and it became very clear like where that distinction line was of who was kind of ready to join it when it all came down for a lot of reasons. And but financial ability was one of them. And I just think I don't see any other chain, including Libre, that's in a position to join right now, right? Where if we really got down to spent the time getting down to brass tacks, that it would be something that would work for both sides. So I just don't think we're there quite yet.
Yeah. Okay, cool. What else is left, Robert?
Resource
limits.
You put it on there. This was talking about set limits.
Oh yeah, setting limits.
You want to skip it for now?
We can skip for now. We can address this in the chat later. It's a very it's not urgent at all, I would say. Future funding of DAO is the last thing I want to talk about. I put a black card on here. This will be in the future known as the black card. So what we're thinking about I think Fred was talking about a little bit earlier, is like it's come up a bunch of times. Like, who's doing the work and who's paying for it, right? Doug asked a couple times. And so, we've done a lot of work, and we have a team that's been working and building out all of this. Basically, like, we could stop building today, and we have a lot of stuff. The chain works, everything works, the front ends work. But when it comes to things like exchange listings, doing future blockchain development, or even paying for the past invoices, that's something we'd love to see go through the DAO.
I think we need a foundation or some sort of business administration or business structure, so that it could run kind of easier and have different departments where people can focus on different things, with the main idea of running it as a company.
I don't know. I mean, I think we can do a lot with just the DAO. Like, a developer wants to get paid for work that was done, they can just make a proposal to the DAO is kind of what I was
I think one of the big ones that's coming up a lot, right, is these exchanges, right? Because, if we're talking about paying somebody $5,000 or something, the DAO's got a little bit of money. The DAO's going to make money through the current process. But we really haven't thought through, like, paying $100,000 or more to join, some exchange, right? And I think we need to start thinking about that, right? So, we've had conversations with Doug about it. But what I would recommend doing is, and part of what I, not to single out, people, but I really do not want to do what Proton did in their
I just want
lab.
to say, just double the supply. It's going to be fine.
That would be great.
I just feel like, having all this stuff being done just by BPs and then forcing BPs up and down and stuff by vote, like, I feel like,
it's a black mark on delegated proof of stake. We want to be a green check mark on delegated proof of stake.
right. So I think one of the things that we're thinking is this: was like, for example, we could say, we're not there yet, but we could say, we are going to give the DAO, we're going to give the DAO X amount of money only to be invested in exchanges, you know what I mean? Or in an exchange, or in the first exchange, you know what I mean? And pass that, and then everybody in the DAO can vote on the actual spending of that and the on which exchange. Do we do it or not? Or maybe to return the funds or burn them. I don't know. But I think it'd be good to have, at this point, it would be good to have more money in the DAO for that particular purpose, for example. I would be,
not that we're at that point yet, but like, I think what we're thinking is, yeah, Doug.
Do we have? It would be great to have an economic team who, in the same way as we have governance. And by making it a different team means I wouldn't have to do it. But I'd like to see us have an economic team where they propose something, because ideas that I would just throw out there for that would be to have perhaps have some portion of fee an automated burn, so that we're, I think that's very popular, and it would, I think that changing our, like, expanding the scope of the DAO so that it would not just be voting on distributing tokens, but actually policies about ongoing, an ongoing daily conversion from Libre into Bitcoin or whatever, and then we could even create that as, we could even, having those resources, we could even vote to have a buyback, right? Like if we are slowly accumulating Bitcoin, then at various points the DAO could vote to use that directly to buy back in through our own exchange as a price support. Or there's a lot of things we can do. One of the problems I see is, as long as all of our funding is in Libre, we are very weak and to the price of Libre. If we were to do more financial diversification on a programmatic level, then we would have a lot more options of things we can do. And for example, paying out, one of the things that Telos Works has taught us is that paying things out in your native token is not very efficient compared to in a stable coin token. So we have this special protocol that is, that we have Bitcoin and USDT and our own coin built in. And I think somebody who's good with economics could take a look at that. I would happily share some ideas, but about how we could make sure that we're economically diversifying on our own platform. And then that gives us the power to do a lot of things that we wouldn't be able, that massively expands the value of the, of having a DAO, right? As opposed to always selling things. And we could also look at, by the way, T-bond NFTs that we built for Telos turned out to be a fantastic vehicle for Telos and for the investors. And Telos doesn't have the large block of funds that we used to, but Libre does. And the code is there. That's something that I sort of created and started, and then the chain worked on. That's something that if somebody's going to look at economic value, we could also sell those. I'm telling you, we raised a lot of Bitcoin that way, and it was good for everybody. So it really did reach its aims. So things like that, if somebody's willing to take that on as a project and lead that.
I think we should take your advice of making some kind of committee to talk about economics. That sounds good. Right? So anyone who's interested in joining that, let me know.
I think it's more about business development and economics. So
sure.
That too.
That's what I was referring to before.
How do we haven't really thought through, how does this entity really exist in a decentralized way and pay bills and grow and do all these other things that would normally be done in a sort of pre-funded entity, et cetera, right?
Right.
And we want to figure out a different way of doing things, right?
Right.
And I think
we're going to start with a proposal to pay Edenia from the DAO.
That's the first
and we'll
proposal.
see how that goes. That's the very first thing, and then we'll kind of see how that's working for us. We think that there's a lot of other opportunities for the DAO to find creative ways to fund itself. I don't know what T-bonds are, how they work, but one of the other concepts that we've been juggling with around is the idea that the DAO could potentially sell tokens for Bitcoin even to an investor who wants to invest, right? So the producers can give the DAO some.
And I might be, for example, one of those investors, right?
There's an investor in this room who might be interested in that
So
deal.
for example, right, I'm just saying, my interest in, I have two sort of hats, right? We built this thing because we wanted to build Libre in this system. But my view is, okay, do I want to put money in some private entity and some equity?
Court with equity.
I have less interest in that and more interest in, and by the way, I've owned Telos coin. I didn't own the Telos T-bonds, but I did own Telos coins, But I've owned most of these coins.
So that's not the only one. We've also been talking to other investors that are very interested in buying tokens.
Right, but
someone the other day said, "What if I just buy $1 million worth of tokens?"
Right, and I think one of the things that we need to figure out,
and one of the things we realized then is if they just went and bought $1 million of tokens with swap, they would end up doubling the price of Libre. That might not actually be beneficial to everyone, but potentially funding the DAO could be beneficial.
Right.
So
maybe they get some kind of some kind of pre-staked token, like they're buying a token they're buying it staked, and maybe they don't have any.
Just look up, just research, just read about the T-bonds. We did it. Not only is it an idea, but it's done. We did it. It was successful. It met all those things, and it essentially solves the problem of how do you get people to buy a lot of your tokens where you kind of have to provide them a discount without having a total lockup, right? Where there's no secondary market or whatever, and without having them dump those on liquid exchanges. So I wrote several things about it. I'd suggest if you what you're describing is pretty much what it solves.
Great. But regardless of that, is the funds that are raised have to be raised by the DAO. We have to go vote on these things in the DAO, and we still need some guidance as to what the DAO should even be focused on. I think, and maybe that's a separate chat somewhere. I don't know, but I do think that once this DAO starts really operating, we're going to get a lot of interest and a lot of ideas that we haven't had yet. Yeah, because this doesn't exist on EOS. I don't know the Telos DAO, so I'm not familiar with it, but it certainly didn't ever existed on Proton. So I definitely like this idea of really empowering developers and community and anybody else who can really provide value. So we'll take a look.
That kind of concludes the black card. We have an action item from there. That's good.
Yeah.
And Ben, I've got to close the call in about 5 minutes. So
yeah, I think I'm done. Thank you everybody for your time, for showing up, for engaging. How many people total did we have on this call now? 18? Not too bad.
I'm in here twice.
Oh, you're here twice. Okay, 17. All right, Doug, I got your links. Thank you. And thank you, everybody.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Good to see you.
Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye.